All right, and first up we have the tier list. So this is just basically a recap of the month. I have reviewed all of these movies, so if you haven't seen a review for a movie and you're curious to hear my full thoughts on it, be sure to go check it out. There's a 2022 movie reviews playlist on the channel, and that's where all these can be found. So this will just, yeah, it'll be a recap for each movie, and then we kind of see them all, how they place in the tiers. So Fire of Love, this was a documentary that I saw closer to or it was the first movie I saw of the month. I thought it was a good film. I enjoyed it. It was fairly informative, and it was an interesting story to hear about the two volcanologists that the movie's about. So that one goes in the good category. It's yeah, I thought it was a good documentary. All right, next up we had Bullet Train. This was by far my most anticipated movie of the month. I was really excited. It looked like it'd be very visually beautiful, and it's from one of the directors of John Wick. And I was just hoping that we would get a really good action movie. And what we got was a good movie, but it wasn't great as I was kind of hoping it would be. But it was still a fun film. I thought the acting was pretty good. I think it was mainly the action that brought it down. It wasn't bad action, but it should have been better. And if it were better, that's what would have gotten it into the great category for me. Next up, we have Easter Sunday. This movie was just fine for me. It was not very funny, and it was a comedy. So I know comedy is subjective, so other people, I think, may have liked it better, and that makes me happy that other people like it better. But I just didn't really care for this one, so it was fine. And then next up, same with Ali and Ava. This was another fine film. There wasn't anything like bad about it. Like it didn't have me wanting to leave the theater, but it was just fine. Like there isn't really much noteworthy about the film looking back on it at this point in my opinion. Emily the Criminal, this is actually a pretty good film. This was right on the border of good and great. I don't think it quite made it into the great category, but it got close, and it was pretty good. But I didn't really have very many expectations, so I think it's always interesting how those things work out. Like Bullet Train, I think I would have liked better if I had zero expectations going into it, but I think I liked this one better than Bullet Train, but yeah, not quite enough for it to get into the great category for me. And that wasn't anything in particular. Like I don't think it did anything wrong. It didn't do what a movie would need to do to get into the great category for me. Next up, we have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I'm not huge into like thriller or horror movies. This is more of a thriller than it is a horror, but I thought it was good though. And this one again, I think I was expecting it to be better than it was based off of whatever like kind of I had heard on the side going into it, but it was good. It wasn't yeah, I enjoyed it and was glad to have gone to see it, but it wasn't great or anything. I thought the story was interesting enough. I did predict the twist coming, but it's nice to get a twist in a movie, and it was rewarding to be able to predict it. But yeah, I did predict it fairly early on though, so that wasn't as rewarding as it could be. Slum Ring, this was a good movie. It's like the lower end of B. So yeah, we had a couple. So like Emily the Criminal and Bullet Train were upper end of B, I thought, and then Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was like solid B. Slum Ring's kind of lower B. I thought it was enjoyable. It wasn't like the novelist of movies, but it was a fun little watch, and I think it was appropriate for the time of year. Calls back to just being a kid in summer and having nothing to do but run around with your friends. So next up we have, I forget the name of this movie. I have to expand the poster just to Inuo. That's what it is. Okay. So that tells you how impactful this movie was for me. It was not very impactful, such that I forgot the name. I thought like there were a lot of things in the setup of the movie that you would like. I thought it was going to be one for me. The main character is a musician. It's anime, and they're setting up a lot of stuff, but then it just didn't really play out for. Yeah, it didn't really work for me at the end of the day. There were a couple interesting things with it, but it was just a fine movie overall. Next up, we have Beast. This is a new Idris Elba movie. I thought this was entertaining. There's definitely a level of like having to suspend belief while you watch this movie, but other than that, I thought it was an entertaining time at the movie. So that was a middle of the road B. It didn't have me considering putting it in the A category at all, but it was certainly an enjoyable experience. Love Song. This was a fine movie. It didn't really do anything wrong, but it was just the type of movie that isn't necessarily for me. So I thought the acting was good. The story was good for what it was, but wasn't all that interesting for me. I thought it examined some things that are kind of interesting, but that's kind of where it lands. So, and then this one, Lal Sin Chada, if I'm pronouncing that right, this was a movie that wasn't on my radar, and then somebody recommended it in the comments, so I went to check it out, and it was pretty good. I gave it a B. I haven't seen like Forrest Gump, which it's an adaptation of, so I don't know how it compares to that, but it was a good movie and better than I would have thought. Like I haven't really given many like Bollywood movies, if it counts as that, a chance, and I haven't really been interested. So it definitely did enough to get me more open to watching movies that are, produced, or like more Bollywood movies like it. Next up, we have 3,000 Years of Longing. This one I originally gave an A, but I think it really is just a B. I did really like it as far as like some of like the subject matter and some of the like philosophy or thoughts and kind of topics that it goes over. I really liked, and I felt like they connected a lot with me. But there, especially like I didn't really get how the movie wrapped up, and it's not that it didn't make sense. I just didn't really get what they did with it. So there are things that I definitely liked, and it's the upper side of B for me. And one of the movies that I liked, it was probably like top 3 movies of the month for me, but it didn't quite get to the A category. Like I wouldn't quite say it's a great movie, so I have to go back on my original ranking for that, and that goes in the B. Fall, this is a movie I didn't know anything about, but it was playing, and I went to check it out, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would for this type of movie. It's a, like, kind of survival thriller movie, and yeah, it had me on the edge of my seat. I don't like heights, and it was filmed great to make me feel like I was right up, like, at the top of this 2,000-foot broadcast tower with the girls that were climbing it. And yeah, it was a good experience for that. And then the main thing, without going into spoilers, there's something that happens that I didn't see coming in the third act, and it was great to get that experience and to not see it coming. So that one was a solid B, an upper side of B, I would say. Breaking, this one was like there's a lot of good acting in it, but it also like it was like the leads were well acted, but then everything else that kind of supported the movie, all the side characters, just didn't really work for me. And like I wanted to like it more, and I thought it had a good message to tell, but it was just fine at the end of the day. And then last up, we have The Invitation. This was a movie I think I originally gave a B, and in my review I said I was right on the edge of B and C, because the first half I liked and the second half I didn't. And yeah, on further thought, I can't say that this is a good movie. I think it's just a fine movie, so it goes in the C category. I think if I had just watched the first half, yeah, it would be in the good category as kind of a sort of guilty pleasure movie, rom-com sort of a thing. I thought it was good for that. But yeah, the second half was pretty straightforward, nothing really there, and was really just fine. So overall, I think yeah, that's a fine movie. But yeah, that wraps up. That's all the movies I saw over the course of August. It doesn't seem like much of a tier list when everything fits into just 2 tiers, but there weren't any bad movies. Like there was nothing that made me want to leave as it was playing out. Maybe Inuo. That got there were elements enough in Inuo that elevate it to C. There were some certain things that I liked, especially some of the visuals were really good. But there were certain sequences in there where I was very thoroughly bored. They felt very slow and repetitive, and it's that sort of thing that would get a movie into the bad category for me. but there were other slightly redeeming elements that brought it up. And then like going higher, I mean it's very rare to get a masterpiece. I think I've only gotten 3 S's so far this year. But and then like yeah, nothing really did enough to get into that A category for me. There were a couple that were close, but August wasn't the best month for movies. Pretty subpar, I would say, given that we didn't have any A's. And yeah, I mean a lot of B's, but like I think B is kind of average. So, but I guess that's typical for August. It's not really a big blockbuster month, so gotta take what you can get, I guess. So that's okay. On reflection, we're in like one of the greatest times of TV, in my opinion, for at least the last like month or the current month that we're in, but definitely like the last several months and like continuing on. We've gotten some amazing TV, so it's okay that the movies haven't been knocking it out of the park. So that does it for our tier list.